Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 24 of the UTR Pro Tennis Tour podcast. My name is James Mackay. I'm the Director of Player and Collegiate Development at UTR Sports. As you know, the UTR Pro Tennis Tour is the go-to tour for rising tennis professionals across the world. Guaranteed matches, guaranteed prize money. Next on the show, I have a legend, an absolute legend of college tennis, my former colleague and mentor, head coach at Tulane, Mark Booras. Welcome on.
James Mackay, thanks so much for having me. You're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, I see, coming to get me, but it's an honor to be on your show. I've watched a ton of the other episodes, and I think you're doing a fantastic job with it. Obviously, you know, you're selling UTR PTT around the world. You got like 700 events going on like this month alone. But you're doing a fantastic job over there.
By the way, before I started this episode, Mark and I had a 21-minute conversation about basically what's in his office and what's in my office. So it's great to catch up with Mark off the record and just talk about life. But for those that don't know,
and most of those things were memorabilia from Scotland, from the fantastic trip that you took me on.
Yes, Mark came to Scotland in 2014 to
great question.
We did some recruiting and we played some golf, and it was a great trip. For those that don't know, I worked for Mark as the assistant coach at Tulane from 2015 to 17. I was fortunate enough to walk into an unbelievable program with a bunch of guys that were just the most competitive, chip on the shoulder group of guys. That's what I remember from them. They really had a chip on their shoulder, and they were like, we don't care who we're playing. Bring it on. Mark, let's start there. Tell us a little bit about that memory of that team. You had some phenomenal players, Dominic Kopfer, for example. What do you remember about that team, and why were they so good?
Yeah, I think you said it best. I mean, they didn't care who they were going up against. And, I always I use this kind of joke with our guys or whatever. I'm like, hey, listen, we're looking for blue collar guys. They're just going to go out and fight. Right. And if you want to stay in the fancy hotel, you want to do this and and get your racket strung twice a day because the tension's a half pound off. Don't come here. Right. And I said, just like, the guys that we got were guys that were just hungry. They were looking for an opportunity. Tulane was creating an opportunity for them to play in a nice conference, a nice schedule, and get some really, really great competition. So, like, we had guys jumping at it that were just, they're hard workers. I think of like everybody on those teams. I mean, they just I think about the practices we would run and how they're just battling in practice, playing baseline games or playing half court games or whatever we were doing. And these guys are just battling away. And whether the guys playing number 8 for us or the guys playing number 1, it was super tough, and everybody was pushing each other. And I think that was, kind of maybe those couple years before then and a few years before then when we finally, got the things moving at a kind of a next level. We started to see that take off, and guys were really pushing one another, and then just realizing, saying, hey, listen, you're using all my terminology. We got a chip on our shoulder, right? I mean, these guys were going to play Tennessee, we're going to play LSU, whoever it is, right? I mean, let's go get them, right? And I was really, really blessed to have a bunch of great guys on the team, and you brought a lot of that passion to us as well, James. We were pretty decent tennis players, and they fought hard, but then you had this whole William Wallace thing going on that a lot of guys didn't even understand. And then we had to watch Braveheart together or something, and then they're like, holy cow, that actually sounds like James. And but a different, it was just but you brought a really great level of passion that the guys hadn't seen previously, and from a coach, which is great. So,
well, I appreciate that. By the way, Mark took over a program in a very unique way 14 years ago. Mark, I'll let you explain what happened the challenge that you were given 14 years ago from today?
Okay, so I think it may have been 18 years.
Oh,
it was
sorry.
2000. Yeah. I can't remember. I never remember the year it started, but I was working at LSU for 10 years. I was the assistant coach there for Jeff Brown, just greatest guy ever. Loved the job. And then an opportunity, actually an unfortunate thing happened in New Orleans. The Hurricane Katrina came, and it basically wiped out the city for a while, and Tulane had to shut down completely for the whole semester, the fall semester. And they actually had to cancel 8 of their sports programs in order to try to keep their heads above water when they came back in the spring. And the goal was that they would bring the sports programs back. Eventually, they made a deal with the NCAA, said, we're going below our minimum number of sports, all this stuff, but we don't want to lose our Division I status. And, we will bring these sports back in time. And they had, a plan to do that. So anyway, there wasn't a men's tennis program for 4 years. And I got a call and said, would you like to restart this program from scratch? And I had been looking at some different, gone on a few different interviews for some head coaching positions at some other places. So I felt like it was, kind of the time to make a move. But this opportunity was something that I hadn't seen or heard of before. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to, help a city rebuild, to put a stamp on something of your own, right? To do something that has basically never been done. And as you probably know, before Katrina, Tulane was top 25 for 2-3 years. They finished number 13, number 14. I think the year before Katrina and the year before that or something. They were a really tough team. And I thought, hey, let's go take a team that was top 25, and then they got wiped out. There's no team, and then bring them back to the top 25. And everybody, I talked to just said, Mark, don't take this job. There's not one person I don't think that said like, you should take this job. This is a great idea. So, but because I think it's because, it's because I was looking at a bunch of other big jobs, and they thought like, hey, maybe your time's come. You're gonna get this something or this something, right? And but I just love this opportunity, so I went after it, and basically, rebuilt it completely from scratch. We had 0 players. We had a couple scholarships the first year, like 1.5 or 1.75
Wow.
or something. And then we just increased it. So I couldn't go out and get 6 guys on scholarship. I had to piecemeal it together. So first year we had 9 guys total. I think 7 walk-ons, we'll call them, right, and 2 guys that were on partials. And then next year we added a couple more. Next year we added a couple more. And but having to say this, those guys that made that initial commitment for us, that first class back, those are the guys that we got to give a lot of credit to, right? They came into a place where there was nothing. There was literally no schedule, no tennis. I mean, there's nothing, right? And they got an opportunity to play college Division I tennis. They came here, took the chance on us, and helped us, get to where we are. Those guys, how they developed their junior and senior years. I think our senior year, either our junior or senior year, we made semis of the conference tournament or something like that. Lost a tight one to get to the finals, which was big for us, right? Because they weren't like the highest UTR 13 guys you think of, right? There was like guys that developed, and I think that's kind of how it started, with this idea of let's just develop players. Let's get who wants to be here, the athletes, the guys that are great athletes, great students, great people, and then let's go develop them. Let's work them, work them to death and turn them into athletes, right? And we do a lot of running, we do a lot of weights, do all these different things to get these guys strong and help them, mature into young men, and then and develop them into players. And then that was basically the beginning of it. I think we made NCAAs our 6th year or something, out of 5th year, 7th year or something like that. I can't remember. But
yeah, you started the program again, and you've won conference championships. You've made the NCAA tournament multiple times, one of which was very close to that round of 16. You made the national indoors. You've had multiple All-Americans, multiple All-Conference selections, and just had a tremendous amount of success. I will say something that hit me when you were talking there, Mark, is that team that I did know was they had natural competitiveness. If you can install and bring in people, whether it's an assistant coach, a second assistant coach, a player, anyone who brings that natural competitiveness where they want to beat you in anything, whether it's tennis, whether it's cards, whether it's who gets to the practice facility first, I just think great things happen. You also touched on what happened with Hurricane Katrina. Tell us what it's like to go and be a part of Tulane. You are in one of the coolest and most unique cities in America, the great city of New Orleans. I miss it so much. What's it like to be a part of that athletic department, to go to school there, to coach there? What's it like?
Yeah, it's wow. I mean, it's a special place. Every coach says this to every recruit, right? It's a special place. I mean, you can literally come here and you're going to say, as a coach from another school, wow, this is a special place. Because there's literally no place like New Orleans in America, right? It's got its own culture, right? Literally, there's no place like this in America. And I'm not saying that to try to single us out and make us special. There's literally nothing like it, right? So one of the reasons I took the job, 18 years ago, was that I thought with the Tulane education that we had, which was a top 40 level type education, the athletic opportunity we could provide, and then the culture that you can get living here, I thought that's a great one. I've been using this term for 18 years, a 1-2-3 punch, right? Instead of a 1-2 punch. And you got the academics, the athletics, and the culture of the location. So 1-2-3 punch. I can't think of too many places that have that in America. And I thought that was one of the reasons I took the job way back when. So like, man, I can recruit kids here because of this stuff. And it's a special place to be. I keep using that word, but I've been on so many different college campuses, which are just gorgeous and great, and they all offer these wonderful things. But what we offer is different, and it's not. And I always say this too in recruiting calls. I'm like, hey, this isn't for everybody. There's kids that come here and it doesn't suit with their eye or whatever. They're looking for something a little different. Okay, we understand. There's guys that want this, and I think, if I can hit on that one point you said about the natural competitiveness of getting guys that want that, I also think that's instilled in the guys, right? Because we had some guys, if you think about it, when we recruited them, they were tough and they were good tennis players, but they're a little, maybe junior tennis player-y, right? Like a little soft on the inside or on the outside here and there. But when they got into the system and saw that this was how James coached, this was how Mark coached, this was how Dominic fought, this is how Constantine did this is how Jow did this is how Seb did this, Alex and Ian, right? And all these guys that are in Tyler, right? I mean, these guys, they all kind of fed off one another. And so when you talk about building a culture on your team, it really, you want to get the right kid, like you said, but a lot of it comes from, okay, the coach is pushing this up from the top. Then is the top player doing this? And is this what's expected in there? And guys feed into that. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, wow, I am a fighter, or I can do this even better or even more, and raise their level again.
You mentioned system. What specifically does that look like for you as a head coach in how you run the program on a day-to-day basis? What do you believe in, and what do you think works from a developmental standpoint?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's so much that can go into that. I think a lot of it always comes back to the real basic stuff for me. I sound like a Nick Saban or Tony Dungy or somebody, but I mean, it's process, right? It's task and process instead of outcome, right? And then the two words that I push over and over every day with these guys are accountability and ownership. Are you accountable for your actions? Are you taking ownership of what's currently happening, where you are right now? You know, we there's a lot of pieces that go into that, you know, we talk about, you know, how to carry yourself and whatnot. And, you know, how I want you to be a good person. And I want you to, you know, I always tell my guys, hey, we're not going to cheat. We're not going to do this and that. We want to do things the right way. Right. And you want to be good ambassadors of Tulane. But when we think about what it really comes down to is, you know, everything that we're doing, whether it's a, you know, physical training off court or on court, or some sort of mental training or some sort of, you know, team bonding kind of thing, it comes down to, you know, are you going to take ownership of where you are? And the discipline that's necessary to do that is very tough, right? And it's tough, you know, coming from in an individual sport, as you know, you kind of do what you want, you know, when you feel like it. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into this team structure, and now it's expected and you have to do this, right? And discipline is a huge factor. And I've used that word probably more in the last 3 to 4 years of coaching than I did previously, just because I'm really understanding, like, there's certain things that even our best players are missing with discipline, right? But if they improve their discipline in one little area, or in this area, or maybe off the court in this area, or on the court in this area, you see massive jumps, right? And so when we talk about accountability, ownership, discipline, things like that, I got a discipline quote over here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Love
from
it.
Bobby. Always been my thought. Single ingredient success. Yeah, these are my two favorite quotes. The success one from John Wooden: peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing you did your best to become the best you are capable of becoming. I love this one from John Wooden. And then the Bobby Knight discipline one is do what has to be done when it has to be done, as well as it can be done, and do it that way all of the time.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
I've been kind of living by these two things, you know, but it's, you know, it's hard to put it all like in a little nutshell, but I think those are the things that kind of stick out when I think about what I expect out of my guys. And, you know, I don't expect national championships, conference championships, you know, 95% win records. I love that. But, you know, what we do as coaches is teaching, right? And winning is just an incidental from your teaching, you, whether you're doing it right or you're not doing it right. Right. So it's like, it can't be, I can't be focused on this outcome. I guess I want to win titles. I want to be a national champion, but I got to teach these guys how to do this at this position right here, this task, this process, this forehand cross, this being tough out of the corner that, you know, that James Mackay taught me how to do, this basic stuff. Right. And taking accountability and ownership of it and being disciplined with it.
For any players that are listening, Mark will push you. I've witnessed it. He will push you, but at the same time, he is a very, very, you can agree with me or not here, Mark, you are a very competitive person. You want to win. With that being said, you will never cross the line. You will never allow your teams to cross the line morally, ethically. They will compete the right way. And that was something that I really learned at the time. I was young at the time. I was, you know, coming in all this energy, and I realized that it's not really all about winning, right? It's about a lot of other things too. And also on that note, to players that are listening, go visit Tulane. This place is amazing, right? It is right near the downtown of New Orleans. It is in an unbelievably cool neighborhood called Uptown of New Orleans. The facilities are tremendous. You have an athletic department. You have a small field to it, which I think is quite nice. I went to a small school. Everyone's kind of there. You know people. You walk around, you'll see someone you know, and you shake hands and you say, how are you doing? And it's a tremendous school. It's a tremendous school. On that note, being in your position now, can you explain how hard it has become to build a program when you're dealing with all this stuff about NIL and resources and free this and free that, when actually you guys are promoting an unbelievable education, which, let's be honest here, this is an honest conversation. It's not cheap to go to Tulane, right? But you're getting one of the best educations in the world. So how difficult has that become? Has it changed at all? And where are you at as a head coach on that?
Yeah, super tough question. But it's the most real question we have right now. And I'm asking myself that probably every day for the last, 10 months, 11 months since all this new legislation came through. The thing that hasn't changed when we think about, like, hey, going back to what works, like what works for Tulane. Like when you were here, when Simo was here as coach, all these different coaches have come through the program, seen these players. What we have here is we have people that want this experience, right? And so um, I know things have changed with the transfer portal and paying and all these kinds of things, but even when the transfer portal opened up, we don't have people leaving, right? We have people that want this education. And I think that's where I kind of keep going back to, as I say, like, hey, where is that going to fit in this picture? That the kids that are coming here, they maybe they want to play pro too, right? But they still want to have something that sets them up for the next 40 years. So we don't say, hey, have a great 4 years. We say have a great next 40 years when you get your Tulane degree, right? This is setting you up for the rest of your life. If you get to be a pro tennis player, fantastic. We can help you do that too. But I think there's still plenty of tennis players that want this out there, right? Now, when we combine that with paying players and doing these different kinds of things, we're trying to balance that out over here. Like, what's that? You know, I'm so old school. I'm like, no chance. I don't want to pay kids. You kidding me? I mean,
Right.
what are we doing right now? But
Yep.
the fact of the matter is, all of your competitors are pretty much doing it, right? So, like, how are you gonna compete? And so the original question is, how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to compete? We're finding ways, right? We've just been approved to go and raise money for for NIL money for our guys. Like per sport instead of just like, for like kind of the big three sports or whatever. So, we'll be going down that alley eventually. I think my recruiting strategy hasn't changed. I mean, I'm still offering what I'm offering. Like, this is an education, this is an athletic experience, and this is a cultural experience.
Right.
You're still going to get that. And now, if it gets to the place where we're starting to pay people on top of it, and maybe I'll adjust it from there. I know a lot of schools are already doing it, so I don't really have to play a lot of catch up right now. But I mean, I still think people want what we have, right? And I still think, not every school is going to be able to pay your kid $100,000 to go there, right? So there's a lot of schools where kids are, getting $5,000 or no money, or maybe just a full scholarship, right? And so I think there's a lot of pieces that go into this puzzle that are making the puzzle a little more complex over the last year. But in my administration, I've been so fortunate to work here, because our administration has been a let's go forward administration for the entire time I've been here. I mean, literally, go forward, build the program. We'll give you what you need to build the program. And then we got to here, and then they said, what do you need? I said, I need this. They gave it to me here. What do you need to get here? What do you need to get here? What do you need to get here? Every athletic director has been pushing this program forward. And now we've reached this new kind of place where they're saying, okay, we want to push forward like we're doing in everything else. So we finally kind of opened the floodgates, and what do I think about it? I don't know. I'm still, old school, and but I still think what we have to offer here is very, very, comparable to, hey, okay, you're going to get $10,000 to go play at this school. Wow, great job. You're going to lose that $40,000 I spend. Once you're in the real world, how fast does that money go away, right?
Right.
It's not like you're, getting a nest egg or something for the next 30 years of your life. So. What you get here is, a great
Your
opportunity.
response is very similar to a lot of coaches. That's how they feel. There's a lot of confusion. I think ultimately it comes down to what you said. Stick to what you believe in. Bring in great people, not only great players. Bring in great people, and good things will happen. Let's talk about your team this year. You have a UTR Power 6 of 73.24. I'm not sure if you look at that too much or not. You have a range of players. UK, Israel, Australia, I believe, US. Tell us about your team. Tell us about your expectations this year and how things are going so far.
Yeah. Things are going well. So we have we'll call it a younger team, I guess. We don't have any seniors, and I haven't had that for a long time. We had a couple seniors last year, and the year before that, we had 5 seniors. So we graduated a ton in the last 2 years, and so last year we are kind of rebuilding, not kind of, but basically rebuilding. And then this year is still part of that, maybe that rebuilding effort. But the thing is, we've got some talent that's really fantastic. So when we look at the top, the middle, or the bottom of the lineup, you see guys that are very, very, very solid, very competitive players, right? And some of them just haven't had that opportunity. It's what I see as a coach. Like, one of the things when I'm looking at these guys, it's UTR rankings, ratings, and then the national rankings. All these things mean something, but what you see is if you get a guy into the fire at this level, get him into the fire again, you see these guys develop, right? And that's one of the reasons why we had such a tough schedule for the past 15 years, is because we need to play these teams so we can get into the fire. And I see these guys with maybe, a nice UTR versus a lower UTR or whatever, but I see these guys competing like crazy and hungry to develop. And that is what's going to allow us to be successful this year. Last year we actually, we're on this so close to breaking through to being that 50 team, like in a rebuilding year, which is, we want to be 40, 30, 20, right? We want to be top 25. But in a complete rebuilding year, we're literally how many 4-3 matches away from that, right? And the way these guys are approaching this year, they've literally basically said, Coach, we're running through a wall. That's it. We're going to do whatever is necessary, because they had chip on their shoulder from last year, and they want to redeem themselves, or they want to do something special, right? And so the buy-in is there, which is fantastic. From the top to the middle to the bottom to wherever, the buy-in is there. And the fitness, what our fitness is like, it's a little unfair sometimes, probably. But these guys are just out there saying, okay, Coach, let's do it. And, ready to do it again. And that's something that's a character thing, but it builds character as well. And it builds toughness, and all these things that are building together, I think, are going to give us a very solid year. I think, we've got a team where we're back in the mix. And even though we're young, like I started with the conversation, I think we're back in the mix, and we're going to be very, very tough team.
I love to hear it. Mark brought up fitness there. If it's okay, Mark, I want to tell people listening that we did the exact same thing at Tennessee for 7 years. Yeah. And the drill was 3 touches. It was their back on a tennis court, from doubles alley to doubles alley, their back 3 times, and it had to be under 16 seconds with a 20 to 25 second rest. And I'll tell you what, there aren't many fitness drills out there that truly measure where your team's fitness is actually at. It's so simple, but it works.
That's a good one. 3 touches. These guys, it's this word. They're like, somebody was talking about getting a tattoo, a 3-touch tattoo on their arm, because we did so many this year. And it's kind of funny when our guys they're playing a tournament it was a conference tournament last year. I can't remember what it was, and it was like super long point, and the guy was going side to side and doing squash forehands and jumping at the fence for overhead returns and running side to the ripping tough out of the corners. And after he won the point, he's like, 3 touches, baby. And he's like, and we all started laughing, right? And but that's a really good measure, I think, of their. I don't know. We do this on the tennis court all the time. You run side to side, right? But and that was in. I remember the first time I saw that was with Jeff Brown at LSU.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we did suicides or something. I think he said. It might have been him or me. I can't remember, but I think he said maybe let's just do doubles line to doubles line instead of doing the middle and stuff. Because it was a little bit more, I don't know, like a tennis. I can't remember who it was. I think it was him. But anyway, so that's where I learned it back then, 27 years ago. And we do a lot of other stuff that they have their own nicknames for, which we won't say online. The physical stuff really pushes them, right? And the reason we do it, as you know, is to get you out of your comfort zone. We want to break through the ceiling, right? I mean, you've got this idea, I can do this, or I don't want to, I can only do this, I want to do this. No, I want you to break through that ceiling and see, where how the sky really is the limit for you. And it pushes yourself to another level, pushes your teammates, watching these guys fight with one another. And, last year we had guys that couldn't make the Riley runs that we did. And another guy's pushing him to make sure he makes the time, so we don't have to do it again. I mean, the camaraderie and the teamwork that goes into all this stuff is really is quite key in their development.
Brings them together. I will tell the 2016 team a secret that sometimes you did get under 16, but Mark said you didn't. So I just had to reveal that secret, but it made you tougher.
That was the James is just saying that's to try to get me in trouble, guys.
I will say this on that note. I believe now college tennis is a neutralizer. You have so much going on. You can play lets. There are deciding points. There are fans. Unfortunately, sometimes people make bad calls. There's pressure. I will say again, the three things you need to have in a recruit. Number one, they have to be in great shape. If they're in great physical shape, they should do well. No deficiency, no clear deficiency. And lastly, DNA, they keep the ball in. They love to just grind and keep the ball in. I think those type of players are becoming more and more successful in college tennis. Speaking of college tennis, I know you are actually on some committees, so maybe you do have the power. But if you did have the power, what would you change in college tennis, either from a scheduling standpoint, from a dual match standpoint, from a getting it on TV? Is there anything you would do or advice you would give to help improve this thing?
Yeah, wow, great question. So, we've worked really, really hard at the ITA. I've been fortunate to be part of the operating committee and a couple other subcommittees that did this fall NCAA pilot tournament and created this opportunity in the fall. And the whole goal has been, first of all, how can we make something that's really great for all of college tennis, right? Not just for the top 15 teams or the top 40 teams, right? Because there's 280 men's college programs, right, in Division I, and 240 of those are not ranked in the top 40, right? And maybe they don't have the budgets or they don't have the whatever. So like, hey, how can we create an opportunity that makes college tennis great for everybody, right? And so one of the things that we did with the big change that we made was to put this NCAA tournament in individuals in the fall. And we said, and the NCAA was behind it. So we piloted it for the last 2 years and trying to create another competitive season for these guys, because the fall can be, you've been in college tennis for a long time. You know what it's like. It can be anywhere. Some people are just sending their kids to pro tournaments. Some people just send them here. They don't do whatever. So we want to preserve our own sport. We said, let's create an environment and a sport where people aren't looking saying, hey, what's going on? An athletic director is not looking saying, why am I paying $18,000 to send this guy to 4 pro tournaments and he doesn't even have a college ranking, what's going on here? So we tried to create this little pathway, and the NCAA is currently behind it. They're going to vote in April, right, if they're going to keep it for the following year. But trying to say the fall means this for individuals, and then the spring is this for team. And I played in this, obviously, in the individuals in the spring. It's part of my entire college career, right? Is the individuals were after the team in the spring, and it was fine, by all my standards or whatever. But when people are defaulting, you had 11 people default out of the NCAA tournament or not even show up, right, and get in. That's a little embarrassing, right? And so you make the NCAA tournament, you're like, it's the biggest thing of your life, supposed to be, right? so yeah. Then you got 11 people saying we're just not going to play it,
right?
So anyway, so that was one of the big things that we did to try to create this college tennis environment that really people would embrace, and the whole country would embrace, and the players would embrace. And now we have a definition to each kind of season. And then going forward, I think the electric line calling is going to help a lot, you know, and that just got approved maybe 2-3 months ago, right? That one of the companies, Play Replay, has been approved, and so I think there's going to be a handful of schools that use that in the spring. That's going to help with some of the, you know, maybe the negative issues that we have around college tennis. You know, social media has exploited some of the tougher parts, right, and not so many of the great things that we do in college tennis, right? So the bad line calls here or there that they get on a video or something. So I think that's going to help, maybe clean up some of that whatever image that can happen. But I mean, going forward, you got to say like, hey, what's in how are we going to get people in the stands, right? I mean, the tennis fans always go, right? But we want to get people that most likely aren't tennis fans to come to the tournament, right? I mean, you're going to go to a college match because you know what it's about. Your wife's going to go because she's watched you in college tennis for forever. Your kids are going to go because you two are going to go, right? But how are we going to get your next door neighbor who is a college golfer and who did whatever to say, hey, why don't you come out to this college tennis match, right? So, you know, we've thrown around a ton of ideas, and, you know, I've put in some different ideas, and, you know, I just think about like match time, match length, you know, I mean, any college event you go to basically is a couple hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, you know, football, basketball, volleyball, softball, you know, whatever sport you want. Golf is not, right? But I mean, like any of the other ones, they're all basically an hour and a half to 2 hours long, right? Our matches, you know, 4.5 hours long, right?
Right.
If it goes last match on, how do you harness that, right? And
Yeah.
you talked about getting on TV. The biggest problem with getting on TV is they've said, Tennis Channel and ESPN said, like, you have 3 hours. And if you can't give us a product that fits into 3 hours, we're not just going to give you the TV time. You know, so like if we have a match that goes 4.5 hours and a match that goes an hour and 45 minutes, then they're stuck, right? So with softball, with volleyball, with whoever, they know it starts here, it finishes here. Even if it goes into an overtime, whatever, it's basically right here. Tennis, we don't have that, right? And so I'm not saying that's the answer, but I'm saying that's one of the things that I personally thought about exploring, is saying like, okay, well, how do we adjust the format to make something like that fit? If we really getting on TV is a big thing, you know, or if getting the neighbor to come to the tennis match for an hour and a half or 2 hours versus committing to 4.5 hours of doing it, you know, what's going to get people in the seats? And I think maybe having a product that's, you know, kind of more in line with what this day and age does, right? I mean, think about anything you take your kid to. You take your kid to the museum, as awesome as the museum is, they're good for 45 minutes, maybe an hour if you're lucky, right? And that's just not how people are wired nowadays, right? Even the parents, like, they got things to do. Everybody's got somewhere to go. They can say, we're going to go do this for 2 hours. We're going to go do this for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, they don't say, hey, let's go to the college tennis for the next 4 hours, right?
Right.
So how do you adjust the format, you know, without giving away secrets or ideas, you know, on doing is, I don't really have any, but I mean, I think that's one of the ways that we can adjust things. You know, people have talked about doing a tiebreaker, a match tiebreaker for the third sets instead of a full third set. You know, talked about doing, you know, singles first with a match tiebreaker and then doubles, 3 10-point match tiebreakers to finish if it's 3-all after singles. I mean, talk about the intensity of that doubles match.
That would be insane.
That would be insane. I mean, people would stay for the whole 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
You do a match tiebreaker for the third set. Everybody knows if they lost the first set, all they got to do is win another set, right? They don't have to, even if they're down 4-1 or 5-1 in the second set, all I got to do is get the set. I don't have to win a third set, right? I mean, it's going to be a pretty intense place, right? And then it gets to 3-all, and that's one of the ideas that I kind of had, but I'm not totally sold on, you know, giving up the third set, because I love the development aspect of these guys. So it kind of goes against what I think, and like making our guys tough it out for another set and really grind out that experience, right? So I'm torn in between, like, thinking what's gonna get people in the seats, what's gonna get us on TV, what's gonna, you know, get it done.
Very interesting points there from Mark, with the countdown 3-hour time slot potentially to be on TV. These are all very interesting things. The last thing I want to talk to Mark about today in a fantastic conversation and catch up is Mark said to me back in 2015-ish time, and he said to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, winning is winning your true definition of success. And I said to myself at the time, I said, well, of course, winning is success. Like winning, you gotta win, like da 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 da. And something happened to Mark recently, and sorry, Mark, if I'm bringing this up, and I shouldn't be, but I want people to know exactly what happened to you. I'm sorry for making you talk so much, but I want people to know what you went through, and back to that, how that has changed maybe your definition of success, keeping things in perspective.
Yeah, it's I'm happy to talk about it. I've done, podcasts where I've only talked about it, right? And I can talk for hours about this thing. So basically, I'm going to keep it really, really simple. I've led a very, we'll call it a healthy life and a fit life. And in 2022, started to feel kind of funny and started losing my breath. In about 8 to 10 months, it went from like losing my breath and not being able to like maybe play tennis with you full blast to oh wow, I can't walk up the stairs of my house. Oh wow, I can't stand up in the shower. Oh wow, I can't like brush my teeth and keep on doing this movement. Like I kept losing my breath. And wow. I had been seeing I went to doctors. I went to like 8 different types of doctors, and then finally my cardiologist was I got lucky because like he was a Tulane tennis alum that's a member at the club, and I was playing doubles with him, and he's like, and I was getting ready to have a baby, my wife was, and I'm playing doubles, and he's like, Mark, what's the matter? You're hunched over, you're huffing and puffing, and you're not running after these balls. I said, I told you the other week, Mark, I can't breathe, and I don't know what's going on, and I know it's hot, but and he's, and he looks at my watch, and then my heart rate says 165, and I'm literally not doing anything. I'm like serving, slapping a forehand, and standing there, right? Because I don't want to run. And he's like, Mark, I'm 72 years old, and I'm running, covering the entire court, and my heart rate's 112 or 120. And he says, you got to come to the office. So I was like, yeah, let's go. So I go to his office. He starts treating me, gives me some medicine for this or that, trying to treat these different things, gives me a couple procedures. Got some positive feedback on a procedure, and some, so we went through with treating for 6 months on different meds. And why I say I was lucky was because he was my friend, and like he would text me every other day, and he would say like, hey Mark, how's that medicine working? And so instead of me, doctor, saying, here, take these meds, come back and see me in 4 weeks. Right. He was texting me every other day saying, hey, and I was like, well, it actually is not working. He goes, okay, let's up it to 1.5 instead of, waiting, let's do this. And then we can do, so he could like adjust things immediately for me. And so I had this doctor literally holding my hand and, on my phone, just ready to, help me at any notice. And so for 6 months, I kept doing this. And finally, like in November, December of 22, I go to see him, and he's like, Mark, it just doesn't make sense. You're getting worse. And he goes, everything we're doing, we've done everything protocol we need to follow, but you're just getting worse. And so we went in for an MRI, and I mean, it got so bad, like I was coaching, but I couldn't even walk across the court. Like I remember Jimmy Borendame, a great friend, he's looking at me and he goes, Mark, man, you don't look well. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel great, man. But nobody knew what was wrong with me. And like all these tests, nobody could figure it out. Like everybody's like, Mark, are you okay? I mean, like I literally couldn't walk across the court. And so finally he said, I'm going to take you to another electrophysiologist, cardiologist. We'll give you an MRI. It got the MRI. My heart was over twice the size it needed to be, clogs everywhere. And they said, Mark, I was at USF playing SMU and USF, and he called me before the match, and I took the call because I knew it was serious. And he said, Mark, it's not good. And I was like, it broke down in tears. I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, we're going to send you to Cleveland Clinic because we don't know how to treat you anymore. And it's beyond our abilities. We don't know what's going on. So I was like, okay, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, like next week you need to fly up to Cleveland and go get tested for all these things. So anyway, so I told you I could talk about this forever. So anyway, so I'll make it short from here. So anyway, I go to Cleveland. I think I'm getting a couple of tests, and they say, yeah, we'll keep you here for a day or two, and we'll give you a few tests, and then we'll send you out here and we'll give you some medicine. So this is the week of conference tournament. So conference tournament is in Orlando. We play on Friday or Friday that week, and I get there Monday, and I check in with the doctor, and he's like, okay, great, Mark, da 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 da. And he says, just by your initial results from the things I'm reading, I want you to know you're an excellent candidate for a heart transplant. And I mean, pin drop silence in the doctor, like you can't imagine. I'm thinking, I said, what are you talking about, dude? I'm 52 years old. I climbed a mountain last year. I run, I play tennis every day. I eat well. I don't drink a lot. I don't, I said, you're telling me I need a heart transplant? Yeah, we're gonna run some more tests. So anyway, they put me in the hospital, and
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I knew I was staying overnight in the hospital because I had to get these tests or whatever and procedures. But then the next morning, after the first night in the hospital, like 6 doctors walk into the room and they said, hey, listen, Mark, we're gonna put you in ICU. And I was like immediately scared to death, right? Because like last time, when you go to ICU, things are bad, right? And my dad went into the ICU, he didn't live another 2 days, right? My friend's dad went to the ICU, he didn't make it, right? So I'm thinking, wait, what's wrong? So I stayed in the ICU. They said, we're going to treat you for everything and give you everything we have. And they had a panel of 20 doctors working on me. They had anything you could think of, they were trying to fix, and they couldn't figure out what I had. And but finally they said, like the last thing was you needed to get a heart transplant. They gave me, no medicines, no treatments worked, and it still was undiagnosed, but they thought it might be something else. It was insane. So I was in the ICU for 9 weeks, and I watched conference tournament from the bed. I remember that, and but I couldn't watch most of it because the internet was really bad. So I just shut it off and waited until somebody texted me. But anyway, so yeah, I was there living in the hospital for 9 weeks. People didn't know what was going to happen with me, if I was going to make it, if I wasn't going to make it. And then I got another amazing part of the story. I got a heart in 2 weeks, which is almost unheard of because of my size and my blood type. It wasn't like the normal, whatever, easy blood type. It was like a kind of whatever. And it wasn't, anyway. So being 6'6", hard to match. You got to get a big person to die with your blood. Right. And somehow in 2 weeks I got an offer, and, they did the surgery, and yeah, I 3 days or 10 days after the surgery, the doctor said the surgery went fantastic. Everything was fit great. 10 days after the surgery, I walked a mile in the hospital with the nurses. I was released. I had to live in Cleveland for 3 months. So anyway, and then it's been a 2-year process. That was 2 years ago, 2 years and 4 months ago. And I'm jogging now. I can ride a bike 10, 20 miles. I can pretty much do anything. And then so that's, again, leaving out a ton of the story, but that's the basic gist of it. I had a heart transplant a little over 2 years ago, and you asked about like how does it change your perspective? And the thing is, I've always had a very spiritual perspective on things. As I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, right? As a Christian, I believe that God's in charge and He has a bigger plan for all of us. So a lot of this kind of fit into that perspective, right? That God's in charge. But as it comes to tennis wise, the things that I believed before, like about the success and like hey, let's focus on this. It became even a bigger picture for me. Like, wow, this really isn't important at all. I'm getting to hold my 9-month-old daughter now. I'm getting to hug my wife. I'm getting to, I'm walking, I'm breathing, I'm above ground. I mean, it was like all of a sudden the level of gratitude. I thought I was a grateful person before, but now it's like, wow, again, I said, eyes are open to a different level of gratefulness, a different level of humility, a different level of all these things that I think that are important, right? And so I still want to win more than anything. I played golf the other week, and I against my brother, and I was literally ready to crack my club over his head when I was losing, but again, I realized that perspective. I'm swinging a golf club. This is fun. I'm with my brother. You know, I mean, this is fun, right? I mean, I'm the most blessed person I know. I've got a 3-year-old daughter now. She's the sweetest thing I've ever seen. And my wife is
Georgiana.
Yeah. My wife Laura is an actual angel. You know, people talk about the hardship of the thing. I always say, let's not avoid what Laura had to go through. I said, let's talk to Laura. She's the one who had the hardship. All I had to do was sit there in the hospital, and I didn't have any choice. She's the one that had a 9-month-old baby, and, you know, possibly going to be a single mom, right? You just know if I'm going to be around, right? And what's she going to do, right? And the stress that she went through, the trials that she went through, everything that she went through, I mean, unbelievable rock for me she was. And her faith was so strong throughout all of it. And she was just a wonderful picture of love and grace and support through the whole thing. And she's just so wonderful. I can't even, without her help, I'm not sure what I've been. But it's a long story. Sorry, but it's you know, and I don't try not to define like that's who I am right now. Like somebody was asking me the other day that didn't know my thing. I was like, yeah, I kind of had the situation a couple of years ago, and they didn't really ask me about it. Like they're like, okay, we don't know. We're not going to ask them. And then finally they asked me about it. I was like, yeah, you know, I had a heart transplant, and blah 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 blah. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, but I don't want that to define me, right? I mean, it is what it is, but it's definitely opened my eyes to a lot of different things and gave me a beautiful perspective on life and gratitude and humility and thankfulness and love.
Well, you learn something every day, as they say, and I've just learned something today, and it frustrates me actually, because you get so caught up in working and this and that, and you forget, right? You forget about the amazing things that are just simply going into the other room or going outside. Or anyway, I'm starting to get a little deep, but Mark, I truly,
that's what life's about. Hey, I didn't even get a chance to talk about UTR.
It's okay. It's okay. Hopefully,
we love UTR tournaments. We send our guys to PTTs all the time because you're going to go and you get like 4 or 5 matches guaranteed. Doesn't matter if you win your first run, second one, whatever. Guys are playing against a super high level and they're competing, and then, you know, they're getting prize money too. So, I mean, it's what you guys are putting out there. The product is fantastic for us, and we really thank you for all the investment that you made in our sport.
Well, we appreciate that, Mark, at UTR. We are trying to help college tennis as much as we can. If we can help you, let us know. But again, I appreciate you sharing that story. From everyone at UTR, we wish you the best of luck this year. We will be following. It was great to catch up with you, and all the best this season.
Thanks, James. Love you a bunch. Talk soon.
See you.